Opening bell on Wall Street, Barron Capital gets the honor today to celebrate the launch of its financial ETFs. So let's take a look at how the markets are opening this morning. We can see that off to a middling start, but we can expect that the market will probably close higher today. There's been a lot of good economic news with the companies that are listed, and so we should expect to see the gyrations pointing higher today. Let's bring in Kristin Myers. She's the ETF editor-in-chief for AssetTV and always has better insights than I do. So, Kristin, let's talk about the Fed. It cut rates last week. We're expecting a new jobs report out tomorrow. So what do we expect?
Yeah, it's actually going to be a pretty busy week when it comes to economic data. So as you just mentioned, we're going to have that jobs report out tomorrow. Largely expected that we didn't really add too many jobs to the U.S. economy and that the unemployment rate is going to be holding fairly steady at 4.4%, which has risen over the last couple of months. But then we also have October retail sales being released. And then we also have CPI, that's the consumer price index. That's also going to be released a little later in the week. And that's going to be a measure of inflation. So really jobs and inflation are what a lot of investors are going to be paying attention to this week, because that's what the Fed has been paying attention to. And the Fed has really been trying to decide, do we pay attention to the job situation in the United States and how unemployment is faring, or do we pay more attention to inflation? So those are going to be the two really big reports that I think are really going to set the tone for how markets are going to fare this week.
And so I want to play a little bit of sound from the president's National Economic Council and Kevin Hassett this morning, talking about, yesterday actually, talking about purchasing power. And he spoke to our Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation. I want to play a little bit of that and let's chat.
The sentiment will catch up with the reality. Under Joe Biden, the fact is that real purchasing power dropped by about $3,000. So far this year, it's up by about $1,200 per family. And the money that we're talking about is like real money. So for groceries, it went from $400 a month to $525 a month under Biden. So that's like an extra more than $1,000 a year you have to spend on groceries. It's down this year for us for the grocery package, but it's still got a lot of room to grow.
So, yeah, he's saying purchasing power is up for American families, but a lot of people say they're struggling right now. So how to make sense of that?
Yeah, right. So essentially what we're talking about is inflation. How far does your dollar actually go at the store? And I mean, on some level, he is correct. We have seen inflation come down. It is not yet at that 2% rate that the Fed wants, but we have come a long way from where we were at the end of 2025 now, where we were just 4 years ago. I mean, inflation was up over 9%. We're now getting closer to that 2% inflation target. But to your question of Americans still say they're struggling, you know, I keep saying this over and over. There is what is actually happening in the economy, and then there's how a lot of Americans feel about it. Now, for a really long time during COVID, the US economy was doing pretty well, but a lot of folks said, hey, I don't feel like I'm doing pretty well. Now we have a situation where the US economy is not doing as well as it used to be. And Americans are also continuing to say, hey, I'm still struggling. So the economic realities and the economic sentiment of, you know, everyday Americans is actually becoming closer in line, because the reality is still this: groceries still cost more than they used to. While purchasing power might have grown, it is still nowhere near to what it was, let's say, 6 years ago. A lot of Americans are still struggling with debt that is increasing. A lot of Americans are now facing unemployment. I mean, if you were just a part of or affected by that government shutdown, I mean, man, I wouldn't probably have felt great to hear, well, okay, your purchasing power is great when you're not receiving a paycheck for several weeks, right? We see home prices still incredibly elevated. So I think a lot of places that you look for a lot of middle-class Americans, for lower-class Americans, they are still struggling to get by in their day-to-day.
Yeah, and that's evident by just when you just talk to regular folks on the street. Thank you, Kristin, as always, my friend. Really great breakdown and analysis. We appreciate it.
Of course.